Hello, hi, Mzansi. Welcome to yet another episode of Defense in Focus, the go-to podcast for informative, inspirational, and inclusive conversation relating to the military. As we celebrate the Heritage Month, we will focus on the military heritage. Joining me today is Captain Vries. He's going to introduce himself, but I call him Jonge Kaya. Jonge Kaya, welcome.
Major Mashiane, thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to come here and help to tell the story of our fighting heritage and our military history.
Please, before we get there, let's just get to understand, what does Captain Vries in his post, what do you do? What is your post?
So in my job, in my post, I am a member of the Directorate South African Army Reserve, where I serve as a research officer, SO3, and I'm also a doctrine and policy development specialist in the area of civil military cooperation, or CIMIC. And one of the large projects that I am participating in at the moment in support of the Chief of the South African Army, Lieutenant General Lawrence Khulekane Mbatha, is the history of the South African Army, the fighting heritage of the Pride of Lions.
Wonderful. That goes to show that you are the right person to sit during this Heritage Month to tell us about the military history. Are you a historian?
I am a historian, yes. I hold a master's degree in history, where I focused on the utilization of civil military cooperation by peacekeeping and peace enforcement troops wherever they are deployed around the world under the United Nations or the African Union. And my research area of interest or expertise is South Africa in the First World War and South Africa in the Second World War, how the diverse members of South African society participated in those conflicts, not only on the front line, but on the home front.
Wow, interesting. Now that we got that one out of the way, I want you to take me to the 2nd of January, 1879. I understand Battle of Isandlwana. Context. What was happening there?
The invasion of the Amazulu Kingdom by the British colonial forces led by Lord Chelmsford came about as a result of an ultimatum which was sent by the British colonial authorities to the Zulu Kingdom, demanding that they disarm. And this ultimatum, which was put to them, was made in such a way that the Zulu would decline or would reject this ultimatum.
Rightfully
and as a result,
so.
This gave the British the cause to invade and to precipitate conflict between these two parties.
Now, if you are saying this to somebody who does not know history and we're trying to describe it in layman's term, what you are basically saying is the British came into KwaZulu-Natal to try take over. Am I getting you right?
Yes.
And while they were doing that, they gave an ultimatum prior to say, listen, we are coming in, we are going to take over. And the Zulu Kingdom was like, this is not going to happen, not in our homelands. And what happened after that?
The leader of the British invasion force, Lord Chelmsford,
Yes.
was at the head of a number of British columns entering into the Zulu Kingdom. And after a series of small but important clashes between the British and the Zulu, it built up to a point where various British patrols and Zulu impi were able to meet with each other and form the battle which would take place in the shadow of Isandlwana Hill.
It's a beautiful day. They are down on the hill. It's happening. The British has brought their artillery. They've brought their cannons. What is the Zulu Kingdom bringing on this particular day?
So as you have said, this day would have started with this British camp encamped in the shadow of Isandlwana Hill. It must be said that this camp did not have any fortification or defenses erected. And this would have been one of the defining features of this clash between the Zulu and the British. The members of these regiments and the gunners of the artillery would be busying themselves about their business,
Yeah.
Standing at their posts, preparing their weapons, and not knowing that
Something is about to get down.
before long, a substantial force of 20,000 armed Zulu warriors would bear down upon them. And in the inevitable clash between these two, one would see a British Empire humbled at the hands or at the assegai tip of forces that they severely underestimated.
I'm getting the picture of what you're saying. They are busy preparing their rifles. They have no idea that the Amazulu is coming for them. And there's 20 warriors that are coming to this hill. And there was the battle.
One must also, for the order of battle, describe what these 1,800 British and Allied soldiers and 20+ thousand Zulu warriors were armed with. The British were armed with single-fire breech-loading rifles. Their officers would have been equipped with revolvers, and they were also bringing to this fight artillery pieces. Less artillery pieces than they would have liked because of Lord Chelmsford taking columns elsewhere to try and find the Zulu main force, a force that at the time they did not know of. On the other side, you have the 20,000 Zulu warriors armed with the short stabbing spear, the assegai, and the large war shield made from cattle hide. Now, as an outside observer looking from overhead down, you would think that a spear and shield
Why
equipped
would you
soldier
bring a spear to a fight?
That's
basically
to a gunpowder fight, and this may have been the British proverbial Achilles heel. So it's very important to take into consideration that the Amazulu knew intimately the terrain on which they were operating. And
it's their home ground.
Yes, and their opponents, the British in their camp, had established themselves without any form of defense from behind which they could hide in the form of rocks stacked up into what are called sangars or digging trenches. So they were pretty much in the open, and they did not
even a lager.
Pull a lager as the Boer Voortrekker settlers would have done, as at the Battle of Nkome or the Battle of Blood River. And as this buffalo horn formation with the Ngoba Makosi and other regiments crashed into the center of the British camp, and the horns of this formation went around, flanking and encircling that camp. The battle was joined, and initially the British were at an advantage, utilizing their long rifle firearms, their Martini Henry rifles, and while they kept up a heavy stream of fire on the attacking Zulu warriors, they inflicted heavy casualties. If you can imagine that once the advantages of firearms have been defeated by enemies drawing close to each other, meeting and literally and figuratively coming to blows, all those advantages fall away, and you have to fight for yourself and fight alongside your comrade to ensure your survival and the survival of your force. So it would have been the discharge of firearms, gunpowder in your eyes, choking your nostrils, sweat.
Yeah,
the wounded.
Quite effective.
It's
quite effective and severe.
But when it came to the time for those British riflemen and Allied soldiers to replenish their ammunition, they encountered problems, and they encountered a problem in the smooth supply of that ammunition.
What had happened there?
And basically, the quartermasters that were present in this battle and in the wider British military system may have had the monopoly on opening these literal crates of ammunition.
Oh, there was a trick to opening these boxes.
A trick which they would then distribute the ammunition to the troops doing the fighting. So while your rifles are glowing red hot from being fired continuously and the ammunition supply on your person running out, you may find that there is now nothing coming from the rear to replenish you. And as that battle was joined, it became increasingly hand-to-hand fighting with the Zulu
I can just
impi
imagine.
and the short stabbing spear, the assegai, doing its deadly business in and amongst these British lines. And when the battle had turned and the British forces had been defeated, the Zulu warriors would have engaged in mopping up operations.
What is mopping up?
Mopping up
Cleaning up.
operations or cleaning up operations entail the victorious side ensuring that the enemy is comprehensively driven from the battlefield or taken prisoner, or in the course of the fighting, killed or neutralized. Okay. And as soon as that is done, as soon as the mopping up operation is done, those forces engage in reorganization, they consolidate their forces, and they advance or move on to the next place. In this case, which was the Battle of Rorke's Drift between the pursuing Zulu warriors and a small contingent of British soldiers. That is very important to take into consideration, that there is a process, tactics, techniques and procedures which need to be followed, and from the mopping up to the aftermath of an operation. Very, very important.
Were they able to reshape themselves?
They were able to reshape themselves and re-establish their lines of communication and advance to the next point to finding and fixing and engaging with the British contingent at the Battle of Rorke's Drift. There, it was a story of
another
victory
day
against all odds between these two opposing forces.
Quite. So, as an intelligence person, what do you think could have went wrong on that day?
The manner in which one approaches a task or a battle which you are preparing to join is to get as full a intelligence picture as possible, to know your enemy and to prepare accordingly, especially if your numbers may be inferior to that of the enemy. And in the context of this battle, the British force at Isandlwana had already been made smaller by Lord Chelmsford taking a column away. Oh, and therefore they were at a disadvantage. And the 1,800 British soldiers and their local militia and Natal native contingent supporters were at a severe disadvantage. 1,800 British and Allied soldiers against 20,000.
But how do you do that? How do you divide your columns when you do know that you are coming here for a win, you are coming here for a victory? So basically what we are saying is the British had an oversight and they were too confident for this type of battle.
In many of the colonial conflicts which the British had fought in South Africa, the country that we know today, they had engaged with enemies that they may have believed to have been inferior, and that they, with their technological prowess and logistical skill and the ability to construct fortresses and forts, made them at a great advantage to their enemies.
What are the lessons we are learning from this? What are the points one could take home as the South African Army now? What lessons did we take from the Battle of Isandlwana? It is one of the historical moments, I would like to believe, for South Africa, if I should say that. What did we take from that?
What South Africa as a country today can take from the Battle of Isandlwana and that clash between the British Empire and a small but not insignificant kingdom was that this was the first battle in which the British Empire was defeated by what they had encountered as natives. They had hitherto in their colonial campaigns never been defeated on the scale that they had. 1,300 of those 1,800 British and Allied troops being killed or wounded or missing.
Casualties.
The casualties on the Zulu side, there are no definitive accounts of how extreme those were, but likely would also have run into the 1,000 or more. Yeah. And this battle is used as a lesson for junior command and staff course students, majors, who go and visit battlefields around the country and learn about battlefields further beyond the Limpopo and Orange River. And it's very valuable for commanders to see firsthand, standing on the battlefield or learning about it in lessons or reading it themselves, that you must prepare accordingly and get the very best picture possible as a defender, establishing a camp, and also ensuring that whether you are feeling safe and secure in your position or not, that you always establish yourself firmly and use that as a firm base from which to conduct your operations. And even though this is many decades, many hundreds of years hence, we as members of the South African National Defence Force, and indeed the South African society at large, can take heart that elements of this battle and that conflict and personalities from within it are preserved within South African military tradition and in South African military heritage. We need not look further than the South African Navy, which saw it fitting to christen its Valor class frigates with names from military history. The SAS Isandlwana, the SAS Amatola, the SAS Mendi. These are very, very important events from our past that soldiers, sailors, aviators, and medical personnel can look to for inspiration. And within the South African Army, very, very important. We have regiments of the South African Army Reserve, which carry the names of regiments from this battle. The Ingoba Makosi Carbineers. In Durban, we have the King Cetshwayo Artillery Regiment. We have King Shaka Regiment, a regiment named after the most famous Zulu leader and king who pioneered the tactics, techniques, and procedures which were used to great effect by the Amabuto on the ground during this battle.
So now, as we are about to wrap up, what are the most important take-homes for you in relation to this Amazulu, or rather, what is this? The Amazulu tactics that they've actually utilized?
The biggest takeaway, for me, would be that you need to know your terrain, whether you are the attacker or the defender, and that you need to make sure that you are safe and secure in your position, and that you can use that confidently as a foundation from which to conduct your operations. And you as a commander, whether you are a subordinate or a superior, need to know that these small but important aspects of leadership are crucial. Your subordinates rely on you, and your superiors also rely on you as a part in the overall battle. And to make a reference to something which the Chief of the South African Army encouraged us all as South African Army members of the Pride of Lions, to always embody, is that planning is very important, and that planning and preparation is everything. And that's true. If you, together with the other very important aspects of logistics, of supply, and of intelligence and lines of operation, if you are confident in those, you can move forward confidently. And we should take pride in this heritage that we have in South Africa, and it is something that those from not only at home but abroad look at and appreciate.
Wow, there you have it. Thank you so much, Captain.
Thank you very much for having me.
Vries. I want to call you with that name again now, but unfortunately, Jongekaya.
Jongekaya, ewe.
What does it mean for you?
It means, as I understand it, as isiXhosa at heart.
Yes.
That it means to look after the home or look after the house.
Beautiful.
And for me, it was important at my wedding to have at my side a fellow officer at Xhosa, to say, you are getting married now, my captain.
Yes.
It is time for you to look after the house. You shall be called Jongekaya.
That is so beautiful.
So for me, that is very, very important. It grounds me in the present, and it helps me to know where I am coming from and where I am going, especially within this organization.
Was this such a beautiful story to tell? Very, very insightful. And thank you so much for coming through to share this information as a historian, as a master's student, everything else that you've actually accomplished thus far. Thank you so much. There you have it, ladies and gents. That is the insightful, as I said when we started this series of episodes of the Defense in Focus podcast will mainly for this month be about military history. So get your notes, come and learn something. And from my side, Major Evelyn Mashiani, it's a wrap.